Today I'll be taking you on a new journey of scents, and this journey will be to Turkey. And I say that not only because this is a Turkish brand called Nishane, but also because these fragrances reminded me a lot about Istanbul. Think of a Turkish bazaar with Turkish lokum, Turkish leather and all the scents of around. And don't forget that Turkey is a paradise for fruits and flowers, including the famous Turkish rose. When you open the box, you have the descriptions of the fragrances that are in the set. And from the moment I read this, I understood that there are a lot of unique creations that are nothing like other fragrances that exist. Looking into details, I was very curious about how would leather interact with passion fruit, or how would ambergris sound when it's a top note, not the base of the pyramid. How do you create a marine fragrance that does not sound cheap and is made up of different kinds of spices? How do you mix pineapple with oak moss and create a fragrance for men? All this is here. I invite you to take a look on their website to see the variety of collections that they have. Rumi collection, signature collection, miniature art, shadow play, imaginative, abundance, blossom, and extrait de Cologne. I tried to look up what's the difference between perfume and Cologne, and it seems that there is a confusion about what it is. When I say Cologne, I refer mostly to old-fashioned style fragrances for men, when there was a division colognes for men and perfumes for women. And I don't necessarily speak about colognes of your grandfather, because modern colognes, they are much more vibrant, but there's something that I catch and I identify as cologne vibe, and I will be using this expression a lot here, because I believe most of fragrances of Nishane do have this cologne vibe. The perfume that really stands out, and there's nothing similar in the set, is called AIGAIO. It smells like a breeze of Aegean Sea. The notes don't make you think of something aquatic, but it is indeed aquatic fragrance. Meanwhile, it doesn't smell like those citrusy aquatic fragrances that were so popular in the 90s. I really hate those. In my perception, AG leans to masculine side, but there are no very strong masculine notes. So I would say that this one is a really nice fragrance for young guys. Another fragrance that could be great for young guys, but could also be used for ladies, is called WÖLÓNG Cha. This fragrance is supposed to have a prominent oolong note. Oolong is a kind of green tea that I really recognize among other green tea notes, and it's a kind of tea that I really like myself. But I cannot say that this one smells like oolong. To me, this is a typical Earl Grey with lemon. English tea time, baby! Another citrusy and tea fragrance is called Colognisé. Surprisingly, it doesn't smell so much like cologne. And you know very well that I'm not a fan of cologne kind of fragrances. This one is very citrusy. It is so citrusy that the note of green tea is lost in here. So this is really for citrus lovers. In the set, there is a second Colognisé, and this one is called SAFRAN Colognisé. It's also yellow colored. SAFRAN Colognisé is not a continuation of Colognisé at all. It's a fragrance on its own. Both of them, they have citrusy notes, but this is pretty much it. Citrusy notes you can find in any fragrance, any cologne. Otherwise, it's totally different. Unfortunately, I do not get passion fruit in here, but I tell you that this one is a serious leather fragrance that is appropriate for more mature men. And I like the way leather comes out in here. It's not shocking you right away, it's developing little by little. And this leather is very long lasting. It goes in parallel with many other notes in here, especially citruses, but then it continues longer till the moment where you get leather as the only accord, as the only base accord, and that's what you feel for a few hours. HACIVAT. This fragrance is coming from so-called shadow play collection. And I think it's one of those fragrances that can really play a joke depending on your skin chemistry. It is obviously very manly, and cologne vibe is coming out really fast, with a citrusy and bitter herbal touch, I would say. I started thinking in the direction of pineapple only when I read the description. And this pineapple reminds me of a pineapple skin. If you take the full pineapple fruit and you start cutting off the skin, that's how it smells. It doesn't smell sweet and fruity, it smells woody and masculine in a way. So blends in well with the cologne citruses. Patchouli oak moss also makes sense because these two, they really dominate the base. But I still cannot decide how I feel about this fragrance. I already wore it on my skin, I have sprayed it on the paper. And despite that it has a very high rating on Fragrantica, a lot of people feel ambiguous about it, and I really understand why. The fragrance that is promising you the pineapple note, but unfortunately it does not deliver it to the same extent, is called KARAGOZ, which means black ice. KARAGOZ was a perfume where my expectations from the olfactive pyramid did not match what I was feeling in here. After the harsh cologne-like opening that is very typical for Nishane fragrances, I started thinking of the perfume that is called Illusion for Her by Bottega Veneta, particularly of the viscous combination of olives and tonka beans. But KARAGOZ changes its direction towards agarwood. And on the way, it gains some sweetness, and that sweetness is probably coming from the mix of amber, vanilla, and orange blossom, or neroli. Unfortunately, I did not catch any grapes or pineapple in here, even at the opening. I liked wearing this fragrance at the beginning, but a few hours later it started giving me a bit of a headache. And I think this is due to the fact that the complexity here is a bit unnecessary. It has amber on the base, it also has patchouli that is usually in cheaper fragrances, neroli might be adding too much sweetness. Ambra Calabria can also be a bit confusing, because on one side this is a fragrance that has green spices, but at the same time there's a wonderful note, especially at the opening, that I associate with the orange confit, orange skin peels that are sugared. That's the touch I really liked, those marmalades in here. I tried Ambra Calabria a few times, but at the end I still could not decide. Do I like it? Do I not like it? I will let you decide on your own. Another fragrance that made me feel a bit ambiguous at the beginning is called B612. The name of the perfume is coming from a fairy tale by Antoine Saint-Exupéry called Little Prince. And according to the story, B612 is a name of asteroid from where Little Prince arrives. What do you imagine in this fragrance as a smell? Nishane portrays this fragrance as memories of childhood. If you look at the olfactive pyramid, you probably would think that this is a fougere kind of fragrance. But I would say that this is a woody perfume with a bit of sweetness. And that sweetness reminds me of lavender fields. And don't think about lavender in those little sachets that you put in your closet. Or don't think about lavender oil for massage. The floral smell of lavender fields has nothing to do with those versions of processed lavender. Another association that I had with this fragrance is a pot of soil. Pretty humid soil. I don't know if I can say that this is a childhood memory or this is the heart of asteroid, but this is something I was getting in here. That earthiness is not disturbing or unpleasant because very quickly it goes into a woody direction, and those woods are very friendly, nice and sweet in a way, and I do recognize sandalwood in here. Unfortunately, it did not smell so nice on my skin, so at the beginning I did not like this fragrance. But when I tried it for the second time, I caught something nice in the air, and I was like, from where is this coming? If a man was wearing this on the street, I would definitely turn my head. There's something sexy about it, despite that the core of this fragrance smells like pencil shavings, but in such a yummy way. This woodiness is just so attractive. I kept smelling this perfume. I wanted more and more of it, and it is so long-lasting. And that wonderful sillage is probably something that you can associate with the tail of asteroid. So this fragrance was not love at first sight, but it was definitely love at the second try. To the point that it wins number 3 spot in my favorite fragrances for men from Nishane. VAIN&NAIVE is a second fragrance that is coming from Imaginative Collection, and it is also dedicated to the fairy tale Little Prince. VAIN&NAIVE are the qualities of a rose that Little Prince is so much in love with. I'm not gonna tell you the story, I will let you read or reread that fairy tale, but as a fragrance, this one takes my number 2 favorite spot. This fragrance is a Gourmand perfume for very brave men. There are a lot of notes listed in the pyramid, but it's very difficult to pull them out because this mix is just such a blended blend. And if I just go with the describing what I feel about it, I would say it smells like a cologne type of fragrance with the fruity notes that are sour and sweet at the same time. In the description, they say raspberry and plum. They are not so recognizable right away, but they do make sense. It's so great, this perfume. Fan Your Flames is probably taking #1 spot in my likes in this collection. This fragrance is just so unique. It opens up with a coconut rum kind of liquor, and then it goes to very dry woods, makes me think of oak bark. This dry wood with the coconut liquor accord is just so yummy. Sultan vetiver. This is really a 3D kind of vetiver. It's a vetiver juice, vetiver grass, and vetiver smoke. It's a vetiver covered with vetiver. And the description includes Javanese vetiver, Bourbon vetiver, Haitian vetiver, and Brazilian vetiver. NEFS. If you are familiar with the lipstick kind of fragrances, you know that that effect of lipstick is created by the combination of geranium, rose, amber, and vanilla. And here, this is the core of this fragrance. You really feel all these elements, but they're sweetened with honey and complicated with leather accords. But even this leather is kind of sweet. It has cinnamon in here and some flowery notes, but I would say that dominant rose makes osmanthus and jasmine lost in the mix. There is also whiskey mentioned as one of the notes. I cannot say that I smell it as whiskey, but I smell it as rum. Maybe the floral notes and cinnamon make me a bit confused and take me into sweeter direction of rum versus harsher direction of whiskey. NEFS is a part of the prestigious collection of the brand. And another fragrance that is also presented in this discovery set that belongs to the prestigious collection is called SHEM. This one is an interesting leather fragrance where the most dominant note is elemi. Now, elemi is oleoresin obtained from a tropical tree, and I don't know how it smells in reality, but I do know how it smells in fragrances. Elemi is only listed in the base, but I can feel it throughout. I am personally not a big fan of this resin, especially when it is so strong, but if you are searching for a fragrance where it is very distinct, this would be the one. Patchouli KOZHA is also an interesting kind of leather fragrance. What's unique about it is this is a licorice, a sweet kind of patchouli, as if we turned patchouli into a brandy or rum like alcohol. And then it has a nice soft leather mixed up with this patchouli liquor. AFRIKA-OLIFANT. And I don't know if it's a game of words that refers to elephants in a way, but some people say it smells like a zoo with a smell of poop. What I also get is fumes of machines or like a mechanic shop. And I was shocked by that strength of animalistic elements in here. But 2-3 hours later, when I smelled it again, the fragrance just settled for oud. Although the olfactive pyramid looks more sophisticated than that, at the end you just get nice oud, but very strong and super long lasting. And I was thinking that AFRIKA-OLIFANT is the most animalic fragrance I've ever tried. But that was until I tried Unutamam. This fragrance is, in French we say matière fécale. Pardon my French. Here we are not going into animalistic direction, we are going into animalic direction. Maybe it's due to castoreum, but I'm sure there are some other animalic secretions and a very serious dose of those. If you are into animalistic kind of fragrances and you're never satisfied with a dose of animalic secretions, go for this one. You probably have noticed that a few descriptions of the fragrances I have cut short. And there are 2 reasons for it. The first reason is because I really want to give you the idea how this fragrance actually smells, because it's very easy to get lost in the notes. And the second reason is that Nishane tends to under-deliver when it comes to notes. They have a lot of interesting notes listed in the pyramid, but in reality many of them are mute. So now I would like to summarize this presentation and to put these fragrances into category. The first 2 are Extrait de Cologne collection, represented only by 2 fragrances, but nonetheless the 2 are very different. Colognisé I put in the category of young men fragrances, And here there are 4 that I think are really appropriate for younger guys. Saffron Colognisé I put in the category of leather fragrances that I think are more appropriate for mature men. Fan Your Flames, VAIN&NAIVE. I was crazy about these perfumes. I really loved the way they sound on my skin, but I still think they are leaning towards masculine side. These are Gourmand fragrances, yet they are rich and make me think of a very handsome, mature kind of man. I would be just so attracted. These are 3 fragrances that I found difficult to understand, and it took me some time to make up my opinion about them, including the perfume B612 that went from so-so to like. Going towards dislike would be AFRIKA-OLIFANT, SULTAN VETIVER, and the biggest dislike is Unutamam. There are 5 perfumes that I did not include into this video. First of all, it's already very long. Second, I separated these 5 because I find them more feminine, and I made a separate video for Nishane fragrances for ladies. So check it out separately.